Ooh, are we ready? Cecil's talking, but he doesn't know. We can't hear him yet. There we go. We can hear you. They're not going to see us yet, though. We can hear you. Hello? We can't hear you, though. Oh, wait. Talk.
Yes.
Yes,
Can
we
you
hear
hear
you.
me?
Yeah,
1, 2, testing. Okay.
we hear you. All right. Stop the music. Change scenes. And there we are.
Here.
We're here. Welcome. Happy Wednesday, wherever you are in the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I don't know. Little Truman Show.
You gotta say all the things when you never know where people are, man. It could be, on the other side of the world or something.
Right. Welcome into PyWeekly Live with your host. I'm Brian Clark.
My name is Cecil.
And we're happy to talk Python with you. If you're new to the show, happy to have you here. We're new on Microsoft Developer YouTube. We're streaming to that right now as well.
We're on YouTube today?
We're on the YouTubes.
That is awesome.
That's the correct way to describe it, right? The YouTubes.
YouTube. You got to be very specific. The YouTubes.
Yeah, we're on Microsoft Developer Twitch and YouTube channel. So thank you for watching whichever area you are. We'll be monitoring the chat room there. This is a live session where Cecil and I have been going through this journey, learning about Python. It's a new programming language for us. We're not new developers, but we're new to Python programming. And we've been taking that foundational knowledge that we've gotten and are applying it to in a more practical sense. We came up with this idea for an app. It's called the Twitch Tracker app, but it could be something for YouTube as well, because folks stream on YouTube like we are right now. And the idea is we have a can set or a list of channels that we want to keep track of that can let us know about when, let's say we have an hour that's free over on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, like right now, and you're eating your lunch and you want to watch somebody stream programming about, I don't know, JavaScript, C#, Python, Java, something like that. This type of tool, all the things. This type of tool will help you try and figure out somebody that might be streaming at that time on that particular topic. Now, it's not something new. It's really the purpose of it is for us to get the experience of applying that knowledge that we've gained around Python to an actual project, something tangible. And so that's what we've been doing. So if you're new, thank you for being here. It's also a live session, so there's going to be bugs and things, and we have to research and dig into and learn about. So if you're new to that type of stuff, I hope you can understand where we're coming from. But the benefit of that is you get to see us, real-world developers, have to debug things and problem solve on the spot. Not everything is happy path like you see in tutorials and courses that you might go through. That's the idea behind this. So if you have questions or input and you want to help us, we're listening to the chat. We'll see your messages there and respond to you as soon as we can, kind of thing.
That kind of reminds me of is, I don't know if you saw Cassie Dew's April Fool's video tweet thing that she put out. But it was a picture of a keyboard. It was a Stack Overflow keyboard where there was a Stack Overflow button C, Stack Overflow button V. So, copy, paste, Stack Overflow. So we might do a little bit of that today. I don't have the keyboard. You know what I mean? I'm also not claiming like any type of, copyright infringement or anything about it. But, we might be doing a little bit of that today because like Brian said, we're just trying to figure it out. This is not a pre-prepped session or demo. I mean, we talk about it verbally, but the code is not written itself, kind of thing. So we gotta write it. We gotta figure it out.
Yes, I don't know that I've seen that particular piece of content from Cassie, but I have. No? I do enjoy. She provides lots of laughs that I do enjoy, and have seen quite a bit of her content.
I'm gonna look it up.
Let me know while you're looking that up. So for folks that are new, let's talk about the format. At the beginning of it, we chat for a little bit, say hi, see how everybody's doing for a short period. Then we go into a segment that we call Links of the Day, where Cecil and I share some links that we came across between last stream and this stream, or last session and this session, that we feel that you might find value in. Most of the time, very Python related. Sometimes it might be adjacent to Python, but development still. And then after that, we jump into making progress on the project. We get everybody up to speed on where we left off, like a quick reminder, and then talk about what we're aiming to do, the goal at least for the session, this particular session. So that's the format we're going to follow. If you're interested in that, we hope you stick around. If not, totally understand. Thank you for checking out the stream. Sounds like you got the video. We hear it.
I think I have it.
All right.
I want to get it to you.
You're going to send it to me? Okay.
I mean, I see other people that have it. I'm trying to get the original one. I don't want like to copy somebody else's thing and send it to you.
All right.
Because I believe in like attribution from the source.
While we're doing that, I kind of want to talk about just being a parent really quick. You know how we tend to start off just about life things. Last time we talked about career development a little bit. This time I want to talk about being a parent. So my wife and I, we just had our second child not too long ago. And it's been quite eye-opening that as you start multiplying more, the amount of impact that has on your lives in general. And I joked about this a while ago. I put a tweet out where I was like, I feel like a guest in my own house now, to the point where so listen, hear me out. So I don't sleep in my own bed anymore because I tend to snore, and I was waking up the baby in the crib next to us. So I sleep on an air mat in the living room. I don't shower in my own shower because I usually shower at night, and around the time that I would get time to shower is when that baby's going to, like, just getting to sleep. So I shower we have one other bathroom, so I shower there. I brush my teeth in there. You know what I mean? Like I have to get my clothes out of my bedroom and go change in the other room, kind of thing. I feel like I'm almost living in a like I'm a guest at my own. I eat what my hosts want to eat, whatever the kids are. No, it's not. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm at the mercy of my host's schedule. So that's what life has been feeling like for a little while now. But
do you make sure you sign the rent checks and deliver them on time at the end of the month?
Yeah, I gotta pay my dues.
That's funny. No, but I get it, man. It's a beautiful thing, but obviously there's also an adjustment as well, right? Like it's always, I don't know, like I'm a baby lover, I guess. Like I love children. I love like little kids. When I grew up, like so my dad has a lot of siblings, and so because he had a lot of siblings, I had a lot of cousins.
Yeah.
And there was just always like kids around, like little kids, little babies, and it's just always such a happy energy, like just good positive energy. I just love being around kids in general. But then I also remember when they belong to you and you can't send them back to somewhere else, you got to deal with the good and the bad, right? You got to deal with the diaper changes and the late night wake ups and everything, right? I remember when my son was little. I'll tell you a little personal story. So we lived in an apartment at the time. I had bought my house. And we had like a changing station that was inside of our bedroom. And every time I'd take him to go change, like I'm like, okay, his diaper's full, like I gotta go change him. I put on the diaper, I put him on the changing station, I open the diaper. Every time I open the diaper, it's like, he's a boy, right? So he has a pistol. And the pistol goes every single time. Like, so what I started to do was this. I was like, okay, I'm going to like let the diaper out. Then I'll like slowly pick it up because I know he's gonna like shoot off the minute I open it up. So I let it off and I'd wait. And then he'd look at me, he'd give me like this little daddy smile, like he's smiling at me, right?
He knew.
And I'm like, okay, he's good now. I don't take it down. And he gets me in the face every single time. Every single time he gets me in the face. But again, it's one of those, it's disgusting, but at the same time too, like you're laughing because it's your kid, right? And, And like seeing like the laughing and giggle, because he did something. He doesn't know what he did. He did something, and like daddy had a reaction.
Yeah.
So now like I'm coming back from work. I have my work clothes on, and I'm covered in like baby stuff. Now I gotta go change and all the other things, man. So I guess it's the gift and the it's the good and the bad, or the good and the not so good sometimes. You know what I mean? But you just gotta appreciate the moment.
Yeah, there's definitely ups and downs, but the ups far outweigh the downs.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then I don't know how to pronounce the name, but they were basically kind of saying, like, is there a certain, like, with your kids, is there a certain age that you've enjoyed more so far? And I think that's kind of a hard answer to tell. Like, every time, like, so my oldest kid, I felt like, at whatever age they were at, I was like, oh man, I really love this age more than the last age group kind of that they were in, like it's like a new experience as a parent. But like we haven't gone through it all. I'm not really looking forward to the teens when they get to the teens to like go through that whole situation.
And you got girls too, so
yeah. So I'm not exactly ready. And so I joke around with my kid, my oldest, because we're trying to get her to eat more vegetables. And I'll be like, hey, vegetables make you grow up more, make you grow more. And she's
Yeah.
like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't want you to eat your vegetables because I don't want you to grow up. I want you to stay, your age forever.
Yeah.
And so she's like, okay, Dad, I'm gonna eat them all. And she's like thinks it's the funniest thing ever
Yeah.
because of that,
She likes carving down vegetables now. Like, give me more vegetables.
Yeah.
I want to be a big one. I want to be a big person.
Reverse psychology, like it organically happened, So
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah,
Rob,
I don't know for me. I don't know which one. So my son is not 10. He's 8 years old right now, and I don't know. I like the fact that we could do more things together now.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like so. We play a lot of video games together, right? So he's into a bunch of different things. But it's good to be able to like share that with them. It's also good to kind of see their personality like uniquely developed. You know what I mean? I know he'd say and do things, and I'd be like, well, "Where did you pick that up from? Or did you see that at school? Did you get that from me?" Like, and you're trying to in your brain, you're trying to like track down the source. You know what I mean of the trait. And sometimes it's just them. Sometimes it's just how they are, right? Being able to go in the basketball court or play football or go to the pool and go swimming. Like we went to the pool over the weekend and we were racing, you know what I mean? Which is cool. Like, you get to race with your kids and do fun stuff like that. But I also miss when he was like a little tiny little person, right? And, he was tiny, he was cute, he ate less food. You know what I mean? I didn't have to buy as many clothes and shoes as I was doing before. School was a lot less expensive. You know what I mean? There's just so many different things, right? So it's kind of hard to say which one you like more or less.
Yeah.
Because I think it's all different. It's all a different experience because they're all going through different stages.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like at each stage there's certain things that are like really awesome about it, and then there's some challenges with it. But each stage through their growth is it just brings new adventures, new fun, and I'm assuming because they all have each kid is going to have a different personality. My youngest now is going to like maybe have a different way of approaching and dealing with that age that they might be at. So, but let's catch up with some folks in chat. I see Rob over on YouTube saying playing video games with your kids can be super fun when they are older. Babies kind of suck because they can't talk it. Yeah. I felt that. So this is the interesting part. Going back to what I was saying before, with my oldest, my wife and I, especially, it was our first kid, so there's definitely the challenge and the learning curve there. But the oldest one, like, we really didn't get a chance to enjoy the infant newborn kind of stage because she was just very, very, very challenging, colicky and like acid reflux, and things were just kind of like off during that period. But then our youngest now, she's been way easier, like not still challenging, not like super easy, but much more easier. I feel like I've been able to enjoy it a bit more. So I think well, it can kind of suck. It depends on the kid and the personality too. So Ben over on Twitch is saying teens are tough. We got Joe Silva. Question for the future, I guess. Could you talk about Sci-Sharp when possible? Do you know what that is?
So I know. So Jose is a like he's a regular in our .NET streams. So,
Gotcha.
Hey Jose, thank you for coming on over here. Sci-Sharp is a .NET thing. So this is not a .NET stream, Jose. I know you see me here. This is not a .NET stream. We're not talking .NET today. So no, we won't be talking about Sci-Sharp. We're gonna be doing some Python things in this particular stream. But maybe in one of the other sessions, when we have the ML folks come on, we're gonna do some future ML.NET-ish things in the future. We could probably have them talk about it there.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for joining us, Jose. Good to see you. And then we see Frackberg on Twitch saying work and lurk. All right, Frackberg, enjoy your work. Thank you for lurking with us. Rob is talking more about playing video games with his son. And a weird day of shame and pride at the same time. Yeah, mixed feelings when your son got better than you at COD, Call of Duty. Yeah. Yeah.
I totally get that. Like, we don't play Call of Duty, but we do play some other games. Like Smash Brothers is a thing that we play on the Switch, Mario Kart, stuff like that. And when he starts to get better than me, certain things, I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about. I appreciate it. Like I love the growth, but then I also am competitive and I like to maintain dominance because I'm the daddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm 50-50 with that one.
Gotcha. All right, so I know we're kind of tight on time. Let's move on to the next segment of the show, which is
What is it?
it's Links of the Day. And if that voice sounds familiar, that's because that is Cecil singing for us. And we're gonna one day catch him singing again. We'll see. We'll see.
One
So
day.
if you're new to the stream and you don't know what Links of the Day is, it's our segment of the show where, again, Cecil and I share resourceful links that we found between last session and this session that you might find value in, in hopes it helps you out. So with that being said, Cecil, why don't you go first? What's your first link that you want to share with everybody today?
Sure, and I'm sharing my screen, so why don't we go ahead and put that up really quickly. But the first thing that I want to share, like this might seem like a small thing to some folks, but this is a major, major thing. And then Flask, Flask is a web framework, very popular web framework in Python, has reached 2.0. I think just last week, like they released their 2.0 version. But not only Flask, but Flask has a whole, I guess, family of libraries that kind of it relies on and it supports. So you can see things like Jinja, the templating engine, got a new version. It's up to version 3. There's Click. I think It's Dangerous is a validation library, I think, or something of that sort. I think that's what it is. I might be mistaken, but I think it's like a validation library or something like that. Markup safe. Again, like all these libraries that are on the bottom, and Flask itself is now have now gotten like new major versions, which is really cool. So some of the things that's cool about that, and Brian, you might be interested in this. They have the initial version of their async support, which is cool. I know that was one of the things that as we were going through last year, as we were going through different web frameworks in Python, that was one of the things that we gave like Flask a negative mark for because it didn't support async, even though a lot of newer frameworks did support that. So now Flask has its first version of async support. There's still more stuff that needs to happen, but this is a good first jump in that direction. Mm-hmm. Another thing too, Brian, you might remember this part or something like this. Now instead of saying app routes and then methods equal to post, now you can just say app.post, which again is very like fast API-ish. When you kind of look at some of the newer frameworks, again, it's a little bit of syntactic sugar around like how you set up your routes and API paths and things of that nature.
Yeah, I do like that. That's nice.
Yeah, and again, there's tons of other things in here. I'm not going to read all this stuff for you, but I will paste it in the chat, and I definitely recommend. Actually, I'll give it to Brian. I'm trying to paste it in the chat, and I definitely recommend that if you're a Flask user or if you're someone that was looking for, upgrading Flask to do some more async things, like this might be a good option for you now. But they have support for it in version 2.0. And as always, like if you have any suggestions or thoughts or ideas, I definitely recommend you head over to their GitHub, where you could share your thoughts and open issues and let them know how it's working for you.
Excellent. I like that a lot. That's cool to hear. I like to see Flask making some progress on all that. So I dropped it in the chat on both YouTube and Twitch. Thank you for that. Really quick, I say hi to Beldathis, Jay Walter in the chat as well. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you both being here. And anybody else that might be just popping in, let us know in the chat if you feel welcome to.
For all sure. Right. What's yours? What do you got?
So mine is last week PyCon US happened. I haven't quite gotten the chance to I didn't watch it live or anything like that, but I haven't gotten a chance to watch or see any of the recaps of it. But I'm interested in, when I was looking around, I found over at benedat.com, and let me get my screen on here and remove yours. Someone had done a recap and notes of what happened at PyCon. So let me get the link here.
Was PyCon done? Is it like finished, right?
I think it's done. It happened, yeah. So it was May 14th and 15th. It was last week. Like it was like most of last week and spilled over a little bit into the weekend, if I recall correctly, with various things going on. So there's the link in the chat. So shout out to Jeff Fisher, who took some notes. It looks like it's a multi-part series. But they kind of stepped through everything that happened. I guess next week they're going to cover the talks they attended on May 15th rather. So I feel like I haven't quite gotten a chance to go through this just yet. But if you were interested and you didn't get a chance to watch PyCon and you want to know what was happening, maybe some things that were announced there, Jeff here has took some nice notes for us. In addition to that, and so I'm kind of doing two links in one. I know the PyCon US, I believe this is where they're going to have the recorded sessions. In fact, one of the workshops, it looks like,
Nice.
has already been uploaded. So here's their YouTube as well to kind of plug that for the fine folks over there. And Jose is talking about the suggestion for a talk comparing Sci-Sharp components with the Python reciprocal components. It might be something of interest for you, Cecil.
Sure, we could talk about that at some point for sure.
Yeah,
well, Jose, unless you know about those things, I mean, you could definitely come on and join us on stream as well.
Sure. Yeah. All right, so that does it for my first link. What about your second link, Cecil? What do you got for us today?
All right, sure. So my second link next week, if folks may or may not know this, is Microsoft Build, our developer conference. We talk about all the cool things that we're building. We have a lot of sessions and workshops, and we might be releasing some new things. Maybe not. We'll see what happens. But I do want to point out that there are tons of really cool Python sessions. I think a Microsoft Build is free, just for the record. So you can go in and you could register, and you'll be able to watch these things live and also watch the recordings of them. But there's tons of great Python sessions, and this particular one, our friend Christopher Harrison, who is now our teammate, is working alongside James Montemagno, and they're doing a session on getting started with popular programming languages, Introduction to Python and C#, which is really great. For one, they're two of my favorite programming languages. And I think if you look at the Stack Overflow survey or whatever the case is, you find a lot of C# developers love Python, and so definitely a good thing for you to check out if you're a Python person or a C# person, or you want to learn either of those languages or both of them. Like, this is definitely a cool one to check out. If you hit this back button too, if you come to the session builder, and I'll share a link for this in a little while, and you just search for Python. Yeah, if you search the session builder, there's tons of really interesting talks about Python. So again, this will be artificial intelligence, creating images with Python and Azure. Here's a session we talked about, getting started with popular programming languages, Introduction to Python and C#. Running web apps and so on and so forth, like something about VS Code, and they'll probably talk about the VS Code extension for Python. So again, all these sessions will be free. They'll be online and available for you to register for. So if you're interested, definitely take a look at these.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm excited. And I see Beldathis in the chat was saying, build hype. I'm excited for it. It's going to be some fun stuff. It's usually like lots of very interesting announcements that come out at this particular event. So
yeah. For sure. What are you doing for Build, Brian? You got anything going on, like interviews?
Speaking of Christopher Harrison, I'm going to be. Wait, actually, I wasn't paying as close attention. Can you show that session again that you were doing?
With this one? Yeah.
Getting started. Yeah, I'm going to be hosting that session.
Oh, are you? Let's go. Awesome.
Yes, I'll be hosting and kind of guiding folks through the session. Christopher's going to be doing part of it, and then James is going to be doing the other part, and then we'll have some Q&A that I'll be partaking in. So yeah, there you go. Right. That's the extent of my involvement with Build this year so far. You never know, because things always happen last minute. Like, hey Brian,
things always happen, man.
Yeah, that's how it goes. All right, so on to my last link and last link for links of the day. Boom. So this one I felt like is going to be perfect segue, and this is why I saved it for last, because Cecil and I were pair programming off stream the other day, and we'll catch everybody up on what the progress we've made with the project off stream. But we were talking about exception handling and whatnot, and like logging of our within our project, and I came across this post here, shared in the chat as well, that goes into handling exceptions in Python like a pro. So I thought this might be a great. I haven't dove deep into it to get a full understanding of the guidance that they're providing, but I thought it'd be useful for us, for one, to try and apply, maybe not in this session today, but in a future session, and for folks at home that are watching right now, or wherever you are watching, you can learn more about some patterns to follow when it comes to exception handling. So there you go. And this is by, where was it? Latrova? See if at the bottom, scroll down, go to the bottom. But there you go. So shout out to them for writing this up, and I think it'll be useful. What's interesting is, what's nice about it is it goes through like a typical pattern that people will try to follow and then correct and kind of making adjustments, like this one right here. That's, you try something, write an exception, raise an exception, catch an exception, raise an exception within that maybe, and so forth, right? And that happens again down here, and they go on to talk about here's a better pattern to approach this type of thing with. So anyway, it's for future reading for myself and Cecil, if you're interested as well, and for folks watching. There we go.
No, for sure. I also remember when we were pair programming, I believe like there's a couple comments inside of the code that says, we should log this at some point. We should do some exception handling at some point. There's a lot of to-dos for things that we should take care of. And again, like kind of what Brian said earlier when we started, we're still, we've been doing this stream for about 2 years now.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's coming up. Is it 3 years? Dude, how long have we been doing this thing for?
No, it's 2. I think we started 2019.
It was before the pandemic. Last year was 2 years.
Yeah, so this is good. No, we started in 2019, right? 2019 or 2018? I don't know. I think it was 20.
So it doesn't matter. We started this a while ago. And but we're always looking for best practices of how to properly do things, right? Like we don't write Python every day, but we do want to come on the stream and show you what it's like to see people struggle, right? And copy paste things and kind of work through the process. And that being said, like I definitely want to learn how most Python folks kind of look at exception handling. What's interesting and kind of like a little bit of a segue. So I've been kind of sort of learning though. I say kind of sort of as in like I've just been reading a lot. I've been reading code and I've also been reading articles and stuff like that about it just to kind of get your brain accustomed to seeing the pattern. Mm-hmm. And like they do exception handling very differently. The way they do exceptions is by returning the exception from the method. Mm. So you'll have like your results and the exception, right? So if an exception was thrown, you'd check like the exception type or parameter or whatever the case is to see if it was there or not. And that's how they do it, right? It says if exception then blah, right? Do a thing. Versus, with Python and .NET and C# and all these other things, we usually do like this try catch finally type pattern, right? And then we kind of, finagle our code around doing it that way. So again, it's always cool to see like different ways of folks doing exception handling. If anyone in the chat, whether on YouTube or Twitch or watching the recording after the fact, if you have any suggestions or ideas about best practices around exception handling for Python and for any other language, I mean, I'd definitely love to take a look at those. So definitely let us know for sure.
Yeah, I see Time Traveler in Twitch chat saying they love Python. They're starting to learn it as well. That's great to hear, Time Traveler. We're happy to have you here. We're learning it alongside with you. So maybe you can help us out, or maybe there's something that we go through in these live sessions that'll help you out too. That's what we're aiming for. So with that being said, shall we start jumping into the project again?
Yeah, let's do it. You can switch over to my screen. And what I'm showing you right now is the discussions area of our GitHub repo. So again, if this is your first time joining us, every week, after Brian and I do some things on stream, like there's always notes and links that we shared and all kinds of stuff that we put up. And like these, we started to put them in GitHub discussions. So again, we're not using issues anymore for discussions or for talking about the project. We'll say issues for bugs and talking about pull requests and things of that nature. But here in discussions, we're really just writing notes about like what did we do like last week. So you can see like the last week, we did some retrieval and some background work and stuff that we're probably going to do a little bit of today. And then also the links that we did and the summaries and things of that nature. So if you want to kind of catch up and know what we did before, definitely head over to the Stream Tracker repo, and then you can kind of dig through the notes and see what happened. And then look, there's even a link to a YouTube playlist where you could see where you could see all of the past recordings that we've done. And oh my word, there is so many of these. 30 recordings. So this is going to be recording number 31 yes. For the session, which is awesome. And yeah, and we're going to see what happens.
So while you're getting set up there, I'll catch people up what we did off stream A little bit. Did I write that down? No, I don't think I did. I wrote down what we wanted to do today, at least. So,
Well, let's do it. Let's do it in the check-ins because we did a bunch of check-ins yesterday.
okay, yeah, let's do that.
So yesterday, May 18th, Brian and I, like you said, we did some pairing on some things. And so if you head over to the repo, you'll see a couple of commits inside of here. Again, some nothing major, but some really interesting things I think that are in there. The first thing that I added, or we added, which I kind of call this like a quality of life enhancement, we added the extensions.json file. And what this does is that this allows you to add these recommended extensions for your project. So what this means is that, let's say you have, I don't know, whether it's a work project or a team project or whatever the case is, and there's certain extensions for VS Code that you're using for that particular project, then instead of being like, hey, Brian, like, what did you use and what's this thing and whatever, instead I could just have them here. Now, whenever you clone this report, open it in VS Code, if you do not have these extensions installed, VS Code will pop up and say, hey, would you like to install the recommended extensions? And you can say yes or no. And so here you can see we added the Python extension for VS Code, the MongoDB extension, because we're also using that. And then also I'm using Docker for some things for running our database. So you also see the Docker extension. So that's one of the things that we added. Let's go back really quick and see what else we got. So the next one, so a conversation Brian and I had was, what's going to be the source of our channels, right? When we think about channels within the project, right? So let me go back. If you're unfamiliar with the project, like we're creating a channel tracker, right? Kind of like what Brian said. We want to track these different streaming things. Now, the question is, well, where do we get these channels from? Like, how do we know which ones we want to track? And so the idea came up of, well, we could do environment variables, we could source it from the database, a configuration file, or whatever the case is. So we decided to do a really simple enhancement to the project. So what we're doing now is that we're going to get this information from either an environment variable or from a database. So notice here, you'll see we have this thing called channel source, right? So channel source will have some value, and then based on the value, if it's environment or database, it's going to determine where it gets those lists of channels from. And then we'll dive a little bit more into this a little bit later today. But so now pretty much we have like configurable channel sources, which is great. And here's an example. We checked in of our environment variables. We didn't check in the original file before, mainly because it does have some sensitive information in it. But Brian went ahead and added this empty file, which kind of shows you some examples of what you can put in there, and then also like what's the app expecting to look for. So that's pretty cool. Whenever you're using this for your own particular uses, you just have to make sure that you change it from local -example to just local.env, and then you should be good to go.
Which we probably, I know we've been saying this quite a bit, you and I. We probably should make a README that can help describe the setup for doing that too. If we,
I'll make after build. I was gonna say next week, but we're not streaming next week. Yeah. After builds, we'll create a README. Maybe we'll create the README in our next pair session. We'll do that.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, unless someone else wants to check it in. I've been kind of trying to encourage folks to, send us PRs, but no one wants to send me a PR. It's okay, I get it. But
well, you're welcome to do so if you feel inclined, folks. And really quick, Cecil, we just got over on Twitch. We got raided by the Visual Studio channel, and John Galloway dropping in the chat the raid emotes. That's cool. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for joining us from the Visual Studio channel.
That's awesome.
You're watching PyWeekly live.
We got raided. We got raided. I love it.
I'm gonna have to go back and clip that.
What'd you say?
I'm gonna have to go back and clip that.
I need to stop doing these things, right? I get so excited when we're working together, and then now I have to filter myself because I know that Brian's gonna clip that, and then it's gonna be a thing.
No.
I gotta watch myself around you, man.
No, man. You do you. It's funny. It's good.
I gotta be careful. So anyway, thank you for our readers. Definitely appreciate you, John, as always, and then obviously appreciate the folks from the Visual Studio channel that joined us today. We are doing some Python things. we're looking at a Python project that we're creating, a little bit of an API that'll help us interact with data from Twitch. And so we're kind of just going over some not PRs, some commits that we did yesterday. Oh, Brian, why don't you talk about this a little bit? Because you did some of this stuff, this type checking thing. Could you talk about this? What does this thing do?
Yeah, so really, shout out to Savannah that works on the Python for on Pylance. She works on Pylance and showed this off at one of our recent VS Code live events, and taught me about this. I didn't know this was a possibility, but there's a setting there, python.analysis.type checking mode. Now, by default, I believe it's set to off, and then there's a basic option, which you could see we switched ours to be that, and then there's a strict, which is like super strict. So Savannah suggested that we go with basic, and the reason what drove this was I don't know if you have an example ready, Cecil, but basically we started using.
I could show you the commit we did when we did the channel sources. It was in here.
Yeah.
And it was so this is an example, right? This line right here.
Well, not just that, but the one that triggered my interest. But yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Maybe line 19, actually, if you highlight that one, where we establish a variable and we say with type hinting that it's going to be a string type, and we want it to be that, right? We weren't at development time getting any kind of indications from our editor, our tool, Visual Studio Code, that, hey, you might run into a problem at this at runtime, like the little squigglies that a lot of us that are familiar with these tools are used to seeing when we have little issues with our code. And so Cecil and I were like, why wouldn't we get that? And it's because we needed to change this setting, because by default, type hinting is kind of new to Python. I think it was version 3.6. Cecil, you mentioned.
Yeah, I think it's 3.6 and above for type hinting.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the tooling around Python is trying to ease people into those changes. But if you're like very into using type hinting rather, and you want to have that get called out to you at development time, then you might want to change that setting. So that's kind of what that does. And like what Cecil was saying, in situations where like the os.get env, I was combining get and env. Get env function, that is set up to return a string or none type, right? And so for the online 15, the Twitch SDK that we're using, it says you have to have a Twitch ID. So before, we didn't have that or statement on line 14 above it that's added. And that's kind of why we had to do that and we learned of that because of this setting. So that was a very verbose way of describing what this does, but it's exciting. I'm glad that we came across that. And thank you again, shout out to Savannah from the Pylance team.
For sure. And then we'll see a little bit more of this as we'll actually see what it looks like in VS Code and see the implications of moving that around. But yeah, that was definitely important. Another thing that we added was this section up here, where we have Python analysis extra paths. Now, the reason that we added this in the settings was because as of, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, like our project is not just one project, it's two projects, right? There's an API project and there's a background project. Mm-hmm. Now, by default, the extension is going to look under source, and it's going to say anything that's in source, like that's going to be the search path for your code. Now, why is that important? It's because, well, Python, if you're familiar with how it does modules and namespacing, or their version of namespacing, there needs to be a root that you can dot into, right? So if I say, channels dots, I don't know, os dot, motor or date dot time or whatever the case is, right? Like it's stepping into modules until it gets to a type or something like that. So it needs to know like what's the roots, like what's the root of your project, like what is your code like? And so since we added these two subfolders, it can't look in source anymore. It actually has to look inside of API and background, as those are the two projects that we have underneath it. So we needed to add this section so that when the Python extension would stop yelling at us. And also too, so Pylance will know, well, where do I pull that type information from? Because without it, like we're getting like these little red squigglies. I'm like, well, the code works, it runs fine. I know this is where the thing is. But just because of the fact that we didn't have the editor know where it was, we were getting some false, some false warnings. So anyway, that's sorted out, that's fixed now. So again, just not a lot of crazy check-ins, but I think these are just some quality of life enhancements that I think make this a little bit better that we did yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, Now, with that being said, let's look at
really quick for folks, Cecil,
Sure.
sorry to interrupt. I'm sharing links to some of the stuff that if you're using Visual Studio Code and you're wanting to write Python with it, some of the tooling that we're talking about, the links I'm putting down below, but I'm also dropping into the chat as well. So there's the changes to the Pylance extension that Savannah raised to my attention, and lots of folks that were watching that event, or maybe even the recording now, Savannah pointed out with the Pylance extension, and in particular VS Code for Python. Any information about that, if you go to aka.ms/vscode-python, you'll be able to get and read more about this and get set up the way we've been set up here. All right, moving on. So you were still talking about what we did off stream in our pair programming?
No, so I just said why don't we just head over to the code and kind of get to it. Now I know, like I mentioned to a couple of folks, like I'm using Docker, but I think I stopped it. So what I want to do is just make sure Docker is running. Why do I need Docker running? I need Docker running because that's where our database is. And I need to make sure that the database is running. So our database is not currently running, right? It is not in here. Now, I do have a Docker file. It's in the root of the project. So if I right-click on this and I hit compose up, then that should work. Now, obviously, I could do it on the command line too, but because I have that extension that I told you all about, that Docker extension, which you will get if you install these recommendations. Now you can see at the bottom, it's going to spin it up. And now I could use the Mongo extension, which is another extension. So I'm using a bunch of extensions here right now. And now I can use so many extensions, but you have
so many. Yeah.
Now I can look at this Mongo extension and I could see my data in here, right? So here I can kind of click through these and I could see the channels and some of the data. Ryan likes peanut butter. You know why? Because you keep having these sandwiches and stuff on stream and you don't give it to me.
You know, I was eating lunch right up until the minute we started streaming.
Yeah.
So it wasn't PB&J today though. It was something different. Yeah.
Sorry. So now we're ready for development. Like we can start writing things, right? So the database is running, Docker is running, and now we have. Let me minimize this a little bit. Go away. Bye. Right. So now we have this main file that's here, right? So we have our channel source, like we were talking about, and Brian and I created this get channels from environment. So what we wanted to do today was we wanted to get it from the database, right? So we know that the environment variable situation works, right? So we need to make sure that the database situation works as well.
Should we show folks that really quick, just so that they can see it running and what the status of that looks like?
Sure. Yeah, let's do that. So I do have a debug configuration set up for this. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay. And while we're running this, you should notice it's activating our virtual environment. It's going to show some things here in a second. Did I press it twice? Why did that show twice? Oh, okay. Boom. So here's the debugger, right? I guess we can kind of skip through the debugger. We don't really need to watch the developers.
Yeah.
But you can see now at the bottom, we have this really attractive looking output of our streams. And also remember, we only have 2 channels that we're looking at. So let me scroll to the top. Here's the channel, the identifier, the name, the platform. We gotta generate this. I need to remember to do that. The URL. Again, there's stuff in here, right? And then also there's the streams and what else?
Which is an array of all the streams that have happened within the past 2 weeks, I think it is. We take the top 20, right?
Yeah, we take by default, it returns the top 20. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so all this information is here, it's there, it's ready, it's generated. So we know that it works with the configuration file. And again, just for folks that are wondering, I'm not going to show you our real configuration file because, like I said before, it has
secret
stuff in it. But we will show you this one that's called local example. And the local example looks kind of like this, right? Like this is a .env file. So you'd have to fill in some of this information, right? Like your Mongo connection string where your database is. the channel source, which again could be database or environment today. Feel free to add more if you want to add more. And default tracker channel source. So the channels that we're looking at, right, like Dash, Ducks, and Microsoft Developer. So obviously we can also add more here if we wanted to, and then it should just work fine. But instead of just pulling this from an environment variable, why don't we write some code, write a little, do the codey thing, and get some information back from MongoDB.
Yeah. Let's let Mongo. So the idea is that somebody that's spinning this up, maybe they have an existing Mongo database that has a set of Twitch channels or live stream channels in it that we want to use to track and find out when they go, when they're live, what types of streams are on there, and make it as part of this project.
Exactly. So So I'm guessing we're going to want to have a similar contract. When I say contract, we're going to want to have a similar structure to what this method does, right? We're going to want a method that takes no parameters, or well, we'll have a method that does the thing, but we want it to return a list of strings, right? Because if we look at our code at the bottom, channel names is a list of strings, right? So that's kind of what we wanted to do. So if I do channel, we'll do something like, I'm just going to stub it out. Channel names, right, should be equal to, oops, not like that. Let's call this get channels from
database.
We don't have this yet, but we're gonna have to create something that looks like that, right? And if we paste this here, I'll do paths. We'll change this end piece to database, right? So now this is the thing that we have to fill out right now. Right? We gotta figure out what's this going to. This thing is mad at me because we're not returning anything, but don't worry, we'll figure it out. We'll fix it.
And that's Pylance again doing that because of the basic.
That's Pylance going to work and letting me know that this code is not right. We'll fix it, we promise. All right. So So a couple of things I think that we need to do. We need to, I think we kind of copied some code, I put it here. A couple of things we need to do is we need to figure out hey buddy, leaving? Give me 1 second.
Sure. Bye, Cam. So yeah, as Cecil highlighted there, we have some existing code from the API part of the project. Right now we're working on this background job script that would go and get the streams from the Twitch API and store it in the database. And then the API that we have is going to work to point to that database that has all the data and allow folks to kind of search through the streams that are available, the channels and streams that are available through there. So right. We took that code and kind of pasted it here so that we can kind of just use it, not as is, but morph it into what we need for this background work for now.
Yeah. I'm back. Sorry about that. Speaking about kids, I had to do a daddy moment really quickly.
Yeah. No worries.
So that code that you saw that we had that was commented out. Actually, we just copied that from the API project, to be honest with you, because again, I'm not going to pretend like we know this API top to bottom. So sometimes it's good that we kind of look at code that we've written already and we copied it. Now this code over here that's inside of the Mongo_data.py, which is an API project, it's written in a particular way, right? It's written for testability in mind. This code that we're writing now, not so much so. We just want to get it to work, and then later on that we could testify or whatever the case is. But what we're going to do now, I'm going to paste that code in, and let's kind of walk through line at a time what it does. So this first line that's here, this is very similar to like some of these other things that you notice at the top. It's going to look for that Mongo connection string. Right, and if you remember, we had it here inside of our environment variable file, right? So get me the Mongo connection string, and then I want you to give it to motor, right? So motor is the async library that we're using right now for Python. I have some thoughts about this, but we could talk about this later.
Okay.
Then the next thing we need to do is, well, what's the database that we're getting, right? So we're connected to the database, or we're connected to the Mongo database server. But as you may know, like any database server can have multiple databases inside of them, right? So what's the database inside of the server that we're connecting to? So this is going to be database name, and again, this is also a environment variable that we're pulling in. So this is all configuration. All we're doing now is we're just pulling out stuff from configuration and setting up the thing. And then now we're going to get the collection, right? In the collection, we're going to call Mongo Mongo client, get the database name, and then the name of the collection is channels, right? How do we know the name is channels? Because that's what we call it. Mm-hmm. So if we take a look here, oh, it's not channels with an S, it's channel. Why do we have? I should rename this to be an S. That's stupid. That's
I don't know.
It's plural. It's a plural thing. Can I just rename it here?
No.
All right. Oh, we'll fix that. I'll put in an issue to like rename.
I think you can with the Azure extension.
With the database extension.
Yeah, the Azure database extension for VS
Okay.
Code.
Got it. Okay. Well, I'll put a to do in here or something. To do. Rename the what collection to plural version. Oh, there you go. I like how when you add to dos that it also puts in the special highlighting in there. That's also really cool.
Yeah. Is that an extension or?
This is just a part of the. This is just default VS Code. It just does it. It does it for every programming language. So Java, JavaScript, C#, whatever. If you do comments to do, it'll always highlight the to do. I think there's a couple others it supports too. I think you could do. Can I do hack? Yeah. So you can do hack. You can do to do. It supports a couple of them inside of there.
Nice.
All right. Oh, you saying something?
No, I was just saying that's nice. I like that.
Yeah. Now, here's the problem. Not the problem, but here's where we have to really do work. Now, what I want to do here, I'll just put a comment here, is I want to get the names of the channels, right? As an array, right? So I just want the names of the channels. Now, if we look back at our samples, you can see every channel or every document in our database has a channel name property with the channel. Now, this is obviously not the right name. We're gonna have to change that. But that's what we want to do. We want to go in here and pull out the channel name. Right? This is a demo. Yeah, we have a lot of demo data in here that we're gonna have to clean up. But these are the things that we want to come in here and pull out. Right? So I want to take these objects and flatten them somehow so that it just returns to me an array of stuff that looks something like, something like this, right? Channel, the channel, right? Something of that sort, right? That's what I want to get. I want to go from objects to an array of stuff. So I think the first thing we should do is figure out, well, how do I query this Mongo thing?
Mm-hmm.
And so why don't we take a look at some documentation? So here's the copy paste part, folks. Here we're gonna take a look at querying Mongo. I'm not a Mongo querying person, so let's figure it out. I like to go to the official docs. I don't know what this is a tutorials point thing. I always go to the official docs first. That's just my thing. Because I want to do that. Querying docs. Query an array. Let's see. How do you query an array? Okay, fine. Oh, so this is if you want to find stuff that has. Okay, so you have if you have. Let me see this. Okay, so querying an array type. I just want to query a property. How can I query one property? select star from inventory, blah, 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 blah. So it looks like you can just do no, that's not what I want to do.
I think it's still find. You just say like the property name.
Yeah, it's fine. But so see what find is going to do. If I pass in a property, I'm guessing this what happens. Like you pass this into find, and then it'll only return status as an example, where status is equal to D, right? I want all the names, but then I also want to project it so that it doesn't return me all the data. I just want you to return me the value of the property, not if the property is equal to a particular thing.
Gotcha.
How about this one? Project fields to return from query. Maybe this is what we're looking for. So here's the filter. Is there a project? Right? Where's project? These are select. Why did it show me all these SQL things?
It's kind of like, well, I guess it's trying to translate things for people that come from a SQL background. But I mean, it's kind of like you really only want to select the channel name field from the channel collection. So I think if you just put in the field name in the find, maybe.
Because we do have a playground. Have you ever used the playgrounds?
No.
We do have a playground.
Where's the playground?
So this is the MongoDB extension, right? Like I mentioned before. At the bottom, you see a thing that says playgrounds. And notice here we have a playground.mongodb. This is also inside of our repo.
Nice.
Now I'm going to comment this because I don't want to do that. But we do have a db.channel.
Okay.
Right? London IntelliSense. If we run that, that should return. Are you sure you want to run this? Yes, I do want to do it. What is this? What does this do? Results. What is that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What is this thing? What is this thing?
Maybe it's returning the name of that
collection. I guess. What if I do this dot find? So find should return everything, I think. Yes. I wish you would stop asking me this. Oh, this confirmation can be disabled in extension settings, of course.
There you go.
Of course. All right, great. So there's our data. Let me go ahead and disable that confirmation. That's MongoDB.
Confirm run all.
Yes, take that out. I don't need that. Thank you. If I run this, great. So you'll run it, it'll return stuff. Now, let's head back to that documentation. Where'd it go? So we're returning all. Return all but the excluded fields. Return specific fields in embedded documents. Copy the following expression into the filter. I don't think that's what I want. Does anyone in the chat know how to query Mongo?
I kind of do, but I'm not that familiar with it. You can do $all. What if you, let's try this, Cecil. I got an idea.
Sure.
Go over to the playground, right? Do find, do the curly braces.
Okay.
And then do the name of the field we want. So channel underscore name, right?
Is that how you do it? I think that's how you do it, right? Is there a quote around it or no? I'm trying to remember.
For what?
There's no quote. Around this. Yeah. Channel underscore name. I wasn't sure if the name was quoted or not.
And then colon, and then a string, and $all. I don't know. Well, I think it might be lowercase though. I don't know if that matters or not.
Let's do it in lowercase. $all. No.
Dang. Do you have to put channel name in quotes?
No, channel name. I mean, looking at the samples, see, like for instance, status and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look, this $sign thing isn't in quotes either. Are you sure that needs to be in quotes? Because these other ones are.
Oh, yeah, maybe it doesn't need it. Yeah, get it out of quotes.
Let's try that.
Drop the quotes.
Drop the quotes. Boom. Does that work? No.
All is not defined. Okay.
All right. So that's not what we need to do. I feel like this document should have it. Are there any other CRUD query array? I feel like this should be it. Project fields to return. Copy the following expression into the filter.
Oh, you do have to do it.
Let's do
You do have to do a projection.
Did you see this? I just found this.
Did you? Where are you?
Select your language. Let's do that. Python.
Where'd it go?
Okay. Da-da-da-da. All right, so returning all matching fields. Okay. Return the specified fields. Okay, so that looks like that would be the second one. Okay, so if this is the first one, so let's do that. Let's say this is the first one.
Find all of them.
Channel ID :1. Is that what they did? Oh, it looks like in Python they do put them in. Well, this is not Python. Great. So see, now it only returns that thing, right? That's good. Actually, want a channel name. Okay. It still returns the ID, but that's fine.
Nice.
Because I think Mongo.
You can ignore it, right?
Yeah, we could just ignore it.
Channel name Brian likes peanut butter.
Now, how can I? I want to project. Can I project that into like a list? How do I do that? Maybe that might be a language thing. You know what I mean? Like you might have to map over this, like do like a MapReduce, so to speak. Like we'll map over this and like just add them to the list. I know MapReduce sounds fancy, but maybe that's just what we need to do.
I forget. Is there a map function in Python?
Yeah.
Map list.
Oh,
a map list and
Okay, so we found out how to just return the name. I think the other thing was I want to know if it could return the name as an array. Can I do that here? Would that allow me to do that? Find in stock. No, that's not wrong.
What we want a like a reduce function. Is there a reduce function? Oh, there is one in func tools.
Okay, so I think we could do that. Now, so in Python, that would mean that I need to call that find mvp_channel that, right? Now, this is the part that I was talking about. I didn't really like the fact that I can't do this. I guess because of the way how this thing returns, get database returns none. Mongo client is unknown. You see how weird that is? Why is this unknown? After I just told you what it was. Async.
Eldath is in Twitch chat, says there is a map method in Python, but you can use a list/dict comprehension instead. Remember we learned about that? I remember that.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right. We can do list comprehension.
It's more efficient that way.
That makes sense. Thank you, Eldath. That's appreciated. Thank you for reminding me about things I've forgotten.
Yes.
What are we doing? We're looking at this, right? I wanted to do something like this, right? So channel name. This has to be a dictionary. Channel _ name. I think we did what? :1 is what we did?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yes. Okay. Now my only thing is, I think this method is async. So this is the thing I want to talk about. So I think this method is async.
Okay.
Because the method is async, I think that means that all of this has to be async. So I'm wondering, is there a way that we could do this in a non-async way? Because I really don't care if it's async or not. Like, can I call a version of find that's not going to require me to like async all the things all the way down?
Well, that would depend on the SDK that we're using, right?
Yeah. Can I import PyMongo from this? Let's see. Motor dot. I'm going to explore this a little bit. Motor dot. This has Tornado and Sync.io. There's a web thing in here. That's cool. I didn't know that. I don't know what that does, but we should look at that later. Frameworks. Can I? How about this? Can I import PyMongo from PyMongo? That's what I wanted. Okay, that makes sense. So you might be wondering, how do I know that PyMongo is in here, or why did I guess that? Yeah. So PyMongo and Motor both come from MongoDB, and Motor is the async version of PyMongo. So I assumed that if I installed Motor, that somewhere under the covers, it probably installed PyMongo. Because I'm going to assume that they didn't want to rewrite the entire engine. So that kind of made sense to me. So that means that it's in here. Okay. So from PyMongo, I want to import Mongo client, I guess. What was that other thing that it said? Replicate set. I know what that is. Mongo client. So that if I change that, I'll change this from Motor clients to Mongo client. Change that to that. All right. Okay. See how my IntelliSense is back now? Oh, geez. So now collection, and I can do a find. See? So much easier. All right. So let's do that. And so now this should return something that looks like this, right? Which means that inside of all of these, it should return a collection of dictionaries. And these dictionaries should have a key of channel name, right? So what we want to do is we want to go inside of this dictionary. So I guess we'll use, let's just call this query results, I guess, I don't know. Query results is equal to this, right? And so assuming that these query results is some type of dictionary, so that should be, I'll just do DXCT, right? Just for the sake of like, is that not what you return? You return cursor. Okay. Returns a cursor. If you return a cursor, let's see.
What does cursor do? What are our options on that?
I don't know what cursor does, man.
Man.
Can you do cursors in query extensions and in this comprehensions? I'm going to assume that you can.
I'm looking it up.
I'm going to assume that you could do that.
Oh, I found a Stack Overflow article.
Stack Overflow is always good.
I got. I'll share this with you in our chat. Stack Overflow article about comprehensions with cursors from PyMongo.
Oh, really? Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, share that. And I will put it on the screen.
It looks like, so you got your client, you got your database, you got your collection, then you do find, and then you have a return object, and so then you could say item field 1 for item in return object.
Potentially. Okay, that's great. That is. I don't understand. Oh, okay. Da, 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 da.
So they're just asking because they were trying to do it twice, and apparently the answer to that was once you run an operation against that cursor once, the cursor becomes exhausted. Basically, you'd have to run the query again against the
You
database.
have to run the query again. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So then that means that I could do something like, so I don't want to create a dictionary, but I do want to source from the dictionary. And
I see in Twitch, DJ Discourse was saying in projects where they've used Mongo, they wrap the cursor with list. So basically the list parentheses around that to transform it to a list of dictionaries. That might be one way to do it too.
we'll do this. We'll do query results. Yeah. And then I'm just going to make some space. So it's going to be confusing. All right. So I'm going to say for item in list of things. Right. I want to get the item. And then we want the channel underscore, right? Oh, so that should be it, right? And that should be what we return from the thing. So what I'll do, I'll have an intermediary. So I'll say, I'll just call this replace. Channel names, right? And
Okay.
then
you can return that, right?
And then we could just return. Yeah. All right. So if that works, let's try it out and see what happens.
I have high hopes. Do you want to put a breakpoint on 36? And then we
Yeah,
can
I'll
see?
put a breakpoint here, and then I also have to switch this.
Right. Or change the channel source environment. Oh, you don't want to do that on stream right now. Or I mean, I could hide your screen.
No, just do this.
Okay.
And then we'll just change it back later. All right, so let's run this and see what happens. Why is it showing this? Close that. Let's close this. Okay, boom. Run the thing from database. Yep, boom. Now make sure it's getting the right connection string. Yep, that looks right. Okay,
yeah.
Boom. Database name should be channel. Okay.
Stream tracker. Sweet.
Stream tracker. Okay. Boom. Boom. Is there stuff in here?
Ooh. Maybe. I don't know what.
I don't see any exceptions. I'm going to say yes. And now, does it work? Does it work? Okay, it didn't break.
Hover over it. What is it? What is it? What does it look like? I see it in your variables on the right hand side. Channel names.
Looks like it worked.
Yeah. Ryan likes peanut butter. As long as that's in there, we're good to go.
All right, so that it works. Yay! Fantastic. Now
Job well done.
Now, if I continue running this, it'll probably break. Why would it probably break? Because Brian likes peanut butter is not a real name. Well, actually, let's run it and see what happens. Let's see if it breaks or not. It did break. It did break because
Twitch API exception. Bad requests. Hover over channel names. What does channel names look like?
Yeah, it's the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. I'm going to assume that channel names, yeah, because it freaked out in get users. Twitch API exception. It doesn't give me the full exception, though. It has to be more than this. This is not the full exception.
Click on the debug console in the bottom instead of terminal. See what that says. Right next to it. Right next to terminal.
There we go. Yeah, it's not going to show it in here.
What happened?
Let me keep running it. Yeah, see, it
just crashed.
It didn't show it in output or anything. But yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that whatever's in there is bad. But how about we do this? Let's go in and delete stuff from our database. Because this was all just dummy data, just to prove that we can do it.
Time check, we have 10 minutes, by the way.
I think we have a playground for this.
Do we?
I hope we do. Okay, there we go. Yeah, we do. So let's do this. Let's do the delete, right? It's not delete one, but it should be delete many, I guess. And then we want to delete the ones where it's MS Developer. So let's get rid of all of those.
Okay.
So that's the name. I'll take that out. I think, did we change the thing? Yeah, it's channel name and not this name. So we'll have to change that. Okay, boom. Put that in there. Run that. Where's the run button?
Wait, I think you flip flop that, right?
I flip flop one.
Because you need to delete the ones that have the value of MS Developer based on the field channel name. All right. Why is it giving you a squiggly under MS Developer?
Because that's not a real word. Spelling errors.
Okay.
I can't spell. All right, so it says control space. Control space isn't anything. Oh, that's what control space is. All right, let's go ahead and run this, see what happens. So it deleted 3 things. Let's refresh that. We got 2 left. Brian likes peanut butter. Let's delete Brian likes peanut butter.
No.
Obviously, we could go ahead and delete it one at a time, but then I kind of want to show that we could use the extension, and then 2, also get used to like writing these Mongo queries because again, I'm not a Mongo query person. All right, so
yeah, delete that one
take
too.
this out. Let's just delete some of that stuff. We'll delete that, and then we'll call this Microsoft Developer, right? Platform is Twitch.
And YouTube now.
And I think I could save it. If I save it, I just want to make sure.
It's good to see you over on YouTube.
It's not opening. Refresh. All right, so it's great. All right, so now if we go ahead and run this thing again, hopefully it should work. Because now we have a right thing in it. Sure, run it. Run it. Run it. All right, let's see what in channel names we should just have Microsoft Developer. Yep, that makes sense. Run it, and there we go. We have results. Great. So now it's pulling that information from the database. That's fantastic.
Nice. Don't forget to change back the environment one to get channels from environment.
Yes, let's do that now before I. This was get channels from environment. Right. All right, so now we just added that. Now we can pull that information from Mongo, which is great. And we learned a little bit about like using the playgrounds, which is cool. We saw, what do we see? We saw the find operator. I think I deleted it, but there was a find in there at one point. We saw delete many. And I know we just got to play around with extension a little bit, so that's cool. We don't really do that very often. So I think what do you call it? Like MongoQL or whatever. Like we wrote some MongoQL, and then we also did it in Python, which is great. So what I will do, because we are running low on time, I'm going to check this in, and then Brian and I got to go because we got real work to do today. But we will be back not next week, just FYI, because next week is Microsoft Build, like we mentioned. It's going to be a lot of conferences, and other people are probably going to be streaming on this channel between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. But we will be back the week after that. And probably by the time we come back, we probably would have written a little bit more code too. So, we're going to keep pushing this project forward as we kind of get into it.
Sounds good. So yeah, just a quick reminder while Cecil's checking that in. Quick reminder that we will not be here next week, but we'll be back. We will be back the following week. So be sure to mark your calendars if you're interested to continue with us and see the progression of the project. I think next time I'll write down here. Our plan is to then, because now we are figuring out which channels to track either from environment variable configuration or from the database directly. And what we need to do then is we already have the background worker working to go and call the Twitch API to get the data we need from Twitch about those channels in terms of what streams they have had recently. And then we need to store that in the database. I think that's our next step, is storing the stream data we receive from the Twitch API in our database.
All right, cool. Well, our code is Go. I'm sorry, our code is in GitHub, and we should be good to go.
I'm just taking notes of what we've done, what we're gonna do.
I'm gonna take a peek in the chat. I haven't looked in the chat in a little while. What's everyone doing? Peanut butter.
There is a question actually.
About peanut butter?
Well, one actually, this is a recommendation. If you could bump up the font a little bit so it's a little bit easier to read, I think. So just some note for future reference. But then also, who was it? I got to go back and chat. I noted it, but I need to. From JR over on YouTube was saying, is there any appropriate analogies to understand the functionalities or behaviors of APIs? So I guess how would you potentially describe an API in a non-technical way? Maybe is what JR is asking about.
I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by API. So if you mean web API, right? So you think about APIs over the web or just APIs for a project or maybe a package that you installed. So I generally think about APIs as, bundled or prepackaged code that help me do stuff, right? Sometimes I write them, sometimes you write them, sometimes some third party writes them. Sometimes they're free, sometimes they're open source. APIs are just encapsulated code that helps us do stuff, like someone else's function or someone else's algorithm or whatever the case is, right? Now, when you think about web APIs are just APIs that you call over HTTP, right? So again, Brian might have a API that returns his Fortnite scores and stats and things of that nature, right? So I might hit that API to be like, hey, give me this information. But again, like it's not mine, right? It's code, it's algorithms, it's a process that someone else wrote. And now I'm just consuming that in my code so I could, enhance or just kind of go forward with whatever my business problem is or whether my project is or whatever it is that I happen to be working on. So again, depending on how you categorize what an API is, if we're talking about web APIs, we're just calling things over the web, over HTTP. And if we're just talking about like APIs in general, they're just, again, it's just code someone else wrote for the most part. That's like the super trivial way to kind of think about it. Now, in terms of learning resources, I mean, I don't have any recommended learning resources for Python to learn about web APIs. Brandon and I last summer, we did go through a few different web frameworks, and those sessions may be recorded in that YouTube playlist that he shared a little bit earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we've just been kind of going through the documentation. We do, I remember, I just remember who I work for. We do have on Microsoft Learn some learning modules and courses on building web APIs with ASP.NET. We have them on Django. And I think the team is also, and I think there might be an Express.js one as well. Again, all talking about web things and web APIs and things of that nature. So if you are interested in any of those languages, definitely head over to docs.microsoft.com/learn, and then you could kind of search and pick and choose what you want to do. Now, these are all text. These are not videos. If you're looking for a video thing, then you'd have to look somewhere else. But those would be some good places for you to definitely go and check out.
There you go. And I have the link. I fixed it. I took out the region there. Docs.microsoft.com/learn, as Cecil mentioned. Yep. And that about does it for the show today. Thank you for watching PyWeekly Live. I'm your host, Brian.
My name is Cecil Phillip. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, we will not be here next week, but we will be here the week after. We definitely would love for you to join us at Microsoft Build. But if not, then we'll just see you for some more Python and PyWeekly stuff in 2 weeks.
For sure. And if you want to catch up on the streams while we're away, go to the GitHub. There'll be the stream notes will be up there under discussions and a link to the YouTube playlist if you'd like. So thank you so much again. Have a good rest of your day wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.